Welcome to another episode of Healing Through Love. Each week, we share ideas, experiences, and resources to increase the awareness of domestic and family violence and to empower survivors to grow and thrive. We talk with experts who share their advice, or with people who have experienced abuse, no matter where they are on their journey. This is all about healing through love. And now, here are your hosts, Charlene Lynch and Rose Davidson.
The Healing Through Love podcast with host Charlene Lynch and Rose Davidson would love to acknowledge Global Glamping Charities Incorporated for generously supporting this podcast. Global Glamping Charities, solving homelessness in all of its forms. Reach out to them at globalglamping.org. The Healing Through Love podcast with Charlene Lynch and Rose Davidson. Our guest, Erin Riley, shares with us how we can recover from narcissistic abuse and find self-love in episode 54.
So when I have an unproductive thought or a ruminating thought or an anxiety or something like that, I will sometimes, you can laugh at this one. This is a crazy trick I have. I pretend I have a horse tail and I just slap it into like the space. So you're an idea, you're a thought that doesn't belong here. So I'm not even giving you permission to be here for 2 seconds. Out, right? And it seems to work. And if you have to do it again and again a few times. So if you just have the awareness that you can control your thoughts, you have to say your thought and you are intrusive, you're unwelcome, and you're not helpful. So go away, right?
So, the Healing Through Love podcast with Charlene Lynch and Rose Davidson.
Hello and welcome to Healing Through Love. I'm your podcast host, Charlene Lynch from charlenelynch.com. Healing Through Love is here to help victims and survivors of domestic and family violence, wherever they are on their healing journey, find more fulfilling and a more meaningful life. We interview experts and survivors who share their personal stories and offer advice to those who have experienced abuse. As well as Healing Through Love podcast, we hold annual Pamper Days here in South Australia for survivors of domestic and family violence. Local businesses come together and pay it forward, providing their services and resources for the day to give our survivors a much-deserved day of indulgence. Think day spa on steroids. We're very proud to say that Healing Through Love has now gone global, and we are running these events around the world. So if you are an interested participant and you would like to pay it forward, we would love to share with you how we've managed to get these off the ground in our local area and the impact that it's made for our businesses and for the survivors in the area as well. So please look out for an invitation to Healing Through Love Goes Global. We're looking for organisations and people with similar values to get in touch with us and reach out to us for hello@htlaustralia.org, and that will be in the show notes as well. Now, every week we have an amazing guest, and today is no different. We've got a special guest with us today, Erin Riley. She is a celebrated musician, and she's got a beautiful backstory. And then in her 40s, an interesting story which she will unpack. And also today, we're going to talk about her amazing book, which is all in and around education around narcissists. Erin, tell me your story. How was life before 40? Let's start with that. How was life before 40?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Charlene. It's a pleasure to speak with you today. My life was like a roller coaster before 40. So if I could sort of break it down into decades for you just as quickly as I can. I was born and raised in Manhattan. I was born in 1959, so I was raised in the 60s in Manhattan, which was very progressive and very cool. Both of my parents worked. My father was an actor, so he worked very intermittently. He spent a lot more of his time hanging out at the bar with the other actors, hoping to meet, like a contact or an agent or something. So my mom became more of the breadwinner of the family. And ironically, my mom was like a couture runway model. So very alternative parenting style and family. My younger brother is about a year and a half younger than I. We were left to our own devices to raise ourselves in New York City. Our parents were gone. Parenting wasn't really a thing to them. I don't think either one of them really wanted to have children, certainly not my mom. So my brother and I kind of roamed the streets of Manhattan as kids in the 60s. I used to take the bus downtown to the Village. I lived on the Upper West Side. Bus down to the Village to take dance class by myself at 6, 7, 8 years old on the bus, on the subway, like nothing. And so I think in growing up that way, I developed a lot of survival skills, right? I'm in a dangerous city and I'm a little child by myself. So I've got to be hyper aware and hyper vigilant. That's, a protective device, but not always the best thing sometimes to have your brain so much more powerful than your instincts and your feelings. All right. So that's up to 10. From 10 to 20, my family moved us out of New York City because my father promised he would quit drinking. Right. So now I moved away from my social circle and all my friends. So I got into nothing but trouble. If you want to talk teenage trouble, I'm guilty of everything. I'm lucky I'm here, honestly, just acting out and hoping that somebody would come down and maybe set some boundaries or some rules and some parenting for us. But that never happened. So then there were a lot of big family traumas that happened around the end of my teen years. My father fell down a flight of stairs from drinking. My mother abandoned us. Other terrible things happened. So I ran away to California. I was like, I'm getting out of here. So I moved to Los Angeles, and I was only 19 years old at the time that I arrived in LA with about $32 in my pocket. Those stories that are like, you don't think are true? Well, they're true. I'm just trying to get away. I'm not trying to be a star. I'm just trying to get away from my trauma. Oh, and by the way, right around that time, I had gained over 75 pounds from just trauma and, abuse of food and all the things that were going on in my life. Once I got to Los Angeles, it got a little better. I feel like you actually can run away from your problems temporarily. And I did that. I was distracted. It was fun to be in LA, and I broke into the music business. I just luckily met a disc jockey from a radio station, and we started dating, and I started hanging out with him. Next thing you know, I'm working at the radio station. So that's kind of how my career in the music business started. And around the time I think I was maybe 23 years old, I was fortunate enough to get a huge job in Philadelphia. And I flew all the way back from Los Angeles to Philly to take a job that was called music director of a big Philadelphia radio station called WMMR. And my job was to choose all the music for the biggest rock station in just about the whole country, bigger than stations in LA and in New York and Chicago, even bigger markets, because we owned the market. Philadelphia was all about WMMR. And I got to pick all the music, and I got to meet all the rock stars. I got to travel, had a wonderful life, had my own apartment, freedom to do so. All the weight had come off by then because I was happy and I was becoming what I thought was myself, and I was feeling seen. More than anything, I felt seen and respected because of my position, something I hadn't felt as a child. So that really carried me through the next next decade or so until I was 30. And then, it's about the time to maybe think about getting married and having kids and whatnot. And my boyfriend at the time and I broke up. So next thing you know, I met a guy that was really into me. And boy, oh boy, there's like dinners and limos and spa certificates and flowers and beautiful calligraphy messages. I love you. And, jewelry. And oh my God, I was like, this is amazing. Once again, Erin feels seen, right? He sees me. He thinks I'm worthy of all of this attention. All right. Come to find out later in the story, there was another motivation. We ended up divorcing. Turned out he had maybe not been quite truthful with me. Some things like he had a felony criminal conviction. He hadn't paid taxes in over 4 years. And he was pretty seriously alcoholic as well, like Dad. No surprise. We divorced after 6 years, but we did have a child. I got back in the music industry, did a few things there, and it was at age 40 that I met my second husband. And I thought to myself, boy, this guy is so different than anybody I ever met. He's so shy and awkward with women and kind of uncomfortable. He'll never cheat. I thought he's different. He's kind of husband material. He was always reliable, always like helped me with, broken things around the house and, and fussed over me. And same thing, flowers every date, Tiffany bracelet on like the third date or something, and took me to Hawaii. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I feel like a princess. Well, there you go. So anyway, so that's kind of all of that. And then over time, that relationship became extremely confusing. We lived together for 5 years before we got married, and of course I put all the money down on the house, right? Of course. And that was $100,000. And I had sold my house and moved in together because I wanted this family. So I was motivated. I wanted a family. I wanted to feel seen. And maybe both of my husbands wanted somebody that owned a house and had money and had a career and status or could get them backstage or whatever. So it's the motivation behind it. I had my needs, they had their needs. We came together in a really toxic mess because, certainly these two people are not being truthful with each other about why they want to be together. Right. All right. So the marriage became more and more confusing over time. He mostly used his narcissistic tactic. The one he was best at was triangulation. He had a daughter and she was preteen, and he would pit us against each other for his attention, and he would poison her mind and then my mind. She said this, just so he could keep control of that narrative. And that ended up, what we fought about was all the time about the daughter, which was a total distraction to the fact that he was probably socking away money and had porn on the side, a couple girlfriends, who knows what else was going on. I eventually learned that he had like a burner phone and secret PO boxes and private browsers and all kinds of things. I'm completely unaware of all of it. I just know that I can't get an answer out of him, that he takes 30 seconds to respond to everything, that he rolls his eyes every time I speak, right? That he never has an answer for where he's been or anything he's been doing. What he been doing? Nothing. Very avoidant. So I started searching the word avoidant, thinking, well, that's what he is. He's avoidant. And sort of skipping over the fact that he's also arrogant, dismissive, secretive, and these other qualities as well. But in researching avoidant, the term avoidant, I came to avoidant attachment. And I thought maybe that's him and what's going on with him, and did some looking into that, and over unpacking all of the behaviors and all of our experiences and all of the things that happened between us over the 20 years, I started to come to the conclusion that maybe he was a narcissist or had borderline personality disorder. So the very end of the story, I'm not letting you get in, am I? I'm telling you the whole story. We built a custom, beautiful home on an island off the coast of Panama. Beautiful home overlooking the Caribbean, hand-carved, stained glass, gorgeous, gorgeous home. And he kept promising me that he was going to be kinder to me. He's under all the stress, the jobs, and I owned a business, and it was so much work. And once we get down there, everything will be great. The United States is a terrible place to live. And, this is going to be paradise. And I wanted to believe him. But before we left for Panama, I asked if we could go to maybe our 7th marriage counselor by then, because the first 6 ones, just 6 of them thought he was charming and we didn't understand what the problem was. I must be the problem, because he would just sit there and go, but I love her. I'm just trying to make her happy. So everybody believed him and took him at face value. But this last one, he took one look at us and he said, something doesn't add up here. Let's do psychological testing. And that's when I got my answer, that my husband was narcissistic, borderline, sociopathic. And it said there were narrative phrases in this report on him that said he has no capacity for love or tender feelings and derives great pleasure from seeing others suffering and downtrodden. And I just had to look at that over and over again and go, I've been living with that person. I thought that's what I was looking at. But until I saw it like yelling at me right in my face, I had to go, okay, I'm not safe going to Panama. I can't go to Panama. Even the psychiatrist said, don't do it. Don't do it. He's trying to isolate you down in Panama where he's fluent in the language and you're not. So he's trying to isolate you from friends and family and a support system where he has control over the language and the money and your every move pretty much. So don't go. So when I refused to go for a while, I said, I just want things to calm down. He started unraveling the whole thing, like credit cards down, phones down, Costco down, passwords to TV down, bank accounts moved, money moved, divorce, boom, all gone. And then within a month, there was another girl living in my house in Panama. So that's my whole story. Sounds like a movie.
If you had to do it again, Erin, what would you have done differently?
Trust my instinct, Charlene. That's what it's all about. And that's the message that I'm here to convey to people. Every person on the planet has like a little internal radar system that was custom built just for you, right? It's like magic. It's inside you. It only knows what's right for you. It doesn't know what's right for somebody else, but it knows what's right for you. And you need to learn how to tune into it.
And when you're do that, Erin?
Well, I would say that one of my best tools has been yoga and meditation, and trying to learn how to control my thinking and even learning that I could control my thinking. I had no awareness that you can tell your thoughts to get out of your head, kind of. You can just say, I'm sorry, you're not a helpful thought. You're not serving me at this purpose. Your brain is just playing around with you and tricking you all the time. And, you just have to keep control of it. So when I have an unproductive thought or a ruminating thought or an anxiety or something like that, I will sometimes, you can laugh at this one. This is a crazy trick I have. I pretend I have a horse tail and I just slap it into like the space. So you're an idea, you're a thought that doesn't belong here. So I'm not even giving you permission to be here for 2 seconds. Out, right? And it seems to work. And if you have to do it again and again a few times. So if you just have the awareness that you can control your thoughts, you have to say your thought and you are intrusive, you're unwelcome, and you're not helpful. So go away, right?
So, Erin,
so that's what I do.
If you met your husbands now, then, would you have even had a relationship with them?
No, not at all. Not at all. In writing the book, Charlene, what I had to learn was, what was it about me that either made me attractive to these men or made them attractive to me? What is this? And so in writing it in a memoir style, and the book is called The Dark Force, 20 Years with a Covert Narcissist, I took it all the way back to my young childhood, and I was able to connect the dots of, being a neglected child, being an ignored child, wanting to feel seen and heard, and wanting attention, and craving love, craving it. So in doing that, I also came to this very, very sad realization that my mom's style of non-parenting was more harmful to me than even my alcoholic father. My alcoholic father was depressive and unavailable, but he wasn't harmful really in any way. He was just kind of sad, like Eeyore, right? My mother, on the other hand, was more manipulative and more selfish, and she would stonewall me. She wouldn't respond to me. She'd say, well, you should just figure that out yourself and walk away. Like, don't even care. If you're sick, like, I'm busy kind of thing. And so that created a tolerance in me for that kind of behavior. I learned to not expect a response, right? I ask you a question. If you don't respond, I can't control that. I can't make you respond to me, and I have to just accept that, right? And that's not the case. There's a different step in here, and that is, I ask you a question, you don't respond, it makes me feel not seen and heard, right? I feel bad because you're not acknowledging what I'm saying to you. Now stop there with the feeling. It makes me feel bad. It's not good. Get away from things that make you feel bad, right? But instead, I came from this background where I would tell myself, oh, well, you can't expect an answer. And, they didn't mean anything by it, and just move on and keep yourself busy and whatever. So that I didn't have to really face the fact that it was important for me to maybe prioritize myself a bit more in the world. But I've learned that lesson the hard way. And I'm here to hope that I can communicate any kind of tools to people so that they can skip over some of the painful parts in life, and learn to trust their gut so that they can recognize what they deserve.
Yes, listeners, now, when you're listening to this, we're not pointing the finger to say that you are responsible for the situation that you're in. For those of you who know my backstory, you know that I'm no stranger to both family and domestic violence. What we're saying is that you have control over your thoughts. What we're saying is that you do have a level of control. Yes, you still need to make sure that you're making decisions that are safe for yourself and the children, but you do have control over your own thoughts. And we're not saying that you're behaving in a particular way that's attracting these people. Yes, and life happens for you, not to you. And when we can live above the line and take responsibility and shift the way that we think about everything, then we vibrate at a different frequency, and those who want to do us harm aren't even interested in us. So we do have the control over our own thoughts. I love it. So now tell us a little bit more about the book and how we get hold of it, all of those things.
Okay, so I have it behind me. Hold on, please, while I grab it. Yep. So I'm very proud of it. It's self-published, and I wrote it in 4 months, which is also kind of a crazy thing. And then I'll tell you how I wrote it, because it's actually an interesting story, I think. And then I'll tell you how you get it. But almost everybody in the narcissism world would be aware of Dr. Ramani. Have you heard of Dr. Ramani? Okay, she's kind of the guru at the top of this heap of, narcissistic abuse recovery and education and whatnot. There are many people that do this very well, and I learned so much from so many people on YouTube. There's so many resources out there. If you just get a hint of, this is what I'm dealing with, there's a lot of information that will help you. So Dr. Ramani suggests writing what she calls an ick list. Write a list of everything your partner did that made you feel icky inside, or every memory that's very bad. Write it all out so that you don't glorify them in the aftermath, as most people do, because your mind is there to, your brain protect you from trauma and bad memories. So you can sometimes look at the more positive aspects of it. So once I had that list and there were 400 items on it, I started expanding on them, just to sort of almost journal this emotional trauma out of me. And that's another thing I highly recommend, journaling and writing everything. But it started with Dr. Ramani's ick list. And as I began to write the traumas, I had my own personal curiosity as to how this all happened and how did I exist with this strange dichotomy of a very successful career and a confident, independent woman that had lived alone half her life, and this inability to control the relationships, my love relationships, or even have any positive ones. What's going on? And as my mom said to me, your dad may have been an alcoholic and whatnot, but it wasn't vindictive like your husband's. And then I thought, who's the vindictive person in my life? And I realized it was the mom. And, I love her. I love you, Mom. But, she definitely, she was maybe not meant to be a mom. So that said, back to the book. It came out in December of 2022, and it's doing really well, and I'm really, really proud of it. A lot of people relate to the stories, maybe even my age group. I put a lot of just social references in it just to give it some time and space and whatnot. But yeah, you can get it on Amazon. You can get it at Barnes & Noble. You can get it in bookstores. You can order it from a bookstore, and you can get it on my website. And the website is darkforce.com, where I sell copies of the book that are autographed, but I also sell, hold please, it's just a joke, voodoo dolls. Because it's just a little fun thing. Because you know what? If you go through a lot of pain in your life, laughing is the best medicine, right? Laughter is the best medicine. So, and they even teach that in yoga. Sit in a yoga class and just belly laugh, because you will instantly start to smile and feel better. So I try to do all those things. And my final recommendation for all of your listeners is get a dog. The dog. Get a dog. Don't you think dogs are amazing?
I love dogs. I love cats.
Yeah.
I love all animals. I love all animals. Yes.
I have found my dog to be so incredibly healing. My dog is a French bulldog. And so I take him out walking. And what it does is gets me out in nature, gets me out like walking and breathing air and looking at trees and flowers. And then because my dog is so cute, people talk to me. Oh, your dog is so cute. Right. And so that starts to help you build trust again with people. It's like a little bit of a, it's like a protective barrier where, you learn to be suspicious of people after going through a trauma like this, right? You're like, people don't have my best interest in mind. I don't know if I can trust you. But anybody who smiles at a dog and says hi to a dog, probably okay.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I hear guys use it to pick up chicks too. So
and they do.
Works on every level. I love it. So
right? Get it.
This is fantastic. So story is resonating with you, then, reach out and get the book. But the details will be in the show notes and also in the description so that you can just press a button and follow through. I love it. Now, what would be, going through this amazing journey, because we're both, I'm going to say over 50, what would be your words of wisdom to our listening audience here today so that they don't have these level of pattern repeats? What would you say is, the one thing that they need to know to move forward?
Well, I have two things that I tell you, but I already used one. So my other one is love yourself first. And that doesn't mean in a selfish way. It just means check in with you. That's all. Before anything happens, before any decisions are made for you by others, or you allow something to whisk you away, but just slow down for a second and go, how do I feel about this? And that leads me to that second thing that I say, which is trust your gut. You can't just do that automatically. Sometimes you can tune in a little bit better. But if you slow down in life, take a deep breath, your gut will kick in. You got to give it a little bit of room, a little bit of time and space to be able to tell you what's right for you. And what's right for you is what makes you feel good, happy, seen, loved, safe. That's what's right for you.
It's so true. I'm recently, Erin, married just like a couple of months ago. And interestingly enough, that we dated when I was 21 and it wasn't the right timing. And so now in my 50s and he's almost 60, we met and fell in love all over again, and now married. It's amazing what that space and time, those number of decades between the 34 years can make. And are we different people? Yes and no. We're still the same, but it's about the timing too. And look, from what I understand, the research shows that people are marrying later as well. So women are seeking a career. They are off doing other things, getting an education, traveling, and then they're deciding to get married. So we are seeing a tendency in people to get married later as well. I know it's a socioeconomic thing as well, but there seems to be a trend towards getting married later. Gone are the days, I'm Irish descent, gone are the days you'd be married at 12. Thank God for that.
Oh my God, I can't imagine. But I love your story because, from my own life experience, which I've only had to kind of look back on by writing a memoir, I realized that as traumatic as, teen years are for everyone and your young years are for everyone, in ways it's before most of the difficult things in your life have happened. There's sort of like a purity, and the people from back then know a more pure you that's not been affected by all of the experiences, good and bad, that you've had in life. And so there is that little familiarity. I thought I didn't really have friends in high school, but when I run into my high school friends, I feel almost closer to them. It's like you knew me way back then. Yeah. So I love your story. I love your story. It's beautiful.
I love it. And interesting, both of my bridesmaids were friends that I've had since the beginning of time. So, and they've known me through the whole process. So that's beautiful. I love that. Oh, yeah. I love it. So what's next?
Happy endings.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Happy. Oh, and I went to see Taylor Swift last week. So, right. So we can all do that. I went to see Taylor Swift last Saturday.
I love it. She got it from me, I'm saying.
I bet she did.
Erin, tell me, what's next for you? Is there another book? Are you going to be doing a speaking tour? What's next for you, Erin?
I actually have a whole lot of stuff going on as a result of the book. So doing a podcast interview, I did one on just rock and roll, and I got hired to do a TV show on Amazon Prime from it. Huh? Yeah, how'd that happen? So yeah, this guy has a recording studio and he has a reality show where they record bands in 2 hours, right? So it's kind of a rush to record a song. And it's a whole contest thing. And he starts it on his website. His name is Otto, and the website is therecordingartist.com. And it's also on Roku and Amazon Prime. And he offered me a job as the music supervisor. He and I hit it off on our interview. And then he asked me to give him a little bit of feedback, and we hit it off, and he thought we had a great similar vision about the future of the show. And so now I'm on the show. So I'm on season 2. And the other thing it's exciting and fun. You know, everybody loves the concept, and I really think it's going to fly. He did 1 season, but I think the second season, I think we got something. He does a good job at it. And the other thing I'm working on is called womenwhorock.com, which is an all-female centric radio station. And it's all the old radio DJs that I've known for 30, 40 years from all over the country. I'm going to be doing a podcast on that network when it launches in September, called Nevertheless She Persisted. And mine will be women's survival stories of all kinds. Doesn't have to be just narcissism. Women are resilient, and they should rule the world. We would be in a better place if we were. Did I say that? Just one girl's opinion.
Erin, you said that.
So I like featuring women. I love, I love men and women, but I really love, I love my girlfriends. They really have carried me through my entire life. So I'm so grateful. Just like you were saying, you had your bridesmaids. They've been with you your whole life.
It's so
There's
true.
really something to that.
The sisterhood. I love it, Erin. And I love wellness practitioners. So I keep myself busy with lots of wellness practitioners. And this is a beautiful podcast to have the opportunity to connect more deeply with people that make a difference for this world, because I really believe our mission, Erin, yours and mine, and people like us that are heart-centric, is to raise the frequency of this planet. And we're doing it one book at a time, one speaking at a time, one action at a time. We're helping to raise the frequency of this planet, and we're creating a better planet. So I know that we're doing the right thing. I love it.
It's worded exactly that way in my book, exactly about raising the vibrational energy of the planet with love and whatnot, and just, being true to yourself and true to others and whatnot. Yes. And it heals generational trauma. My family trauma goes back multiple generations, lots of martyrdom and whatnot. So people can relate to that, and then there's a cycle breaker. Somebody needs to be a cycle breaker, and that's you and me. We take on a lot of pain as cycle breakers, but our work is important, and we're here to help just anybody that wants to listen that is helped by us. That is rewarding to me. So.
It is true. Energetic research shows that when you break a cycle, you break it 700 years in the past. Now, hard to get your brain around. I know, yes, and it's still true. I love it. This has been such a privilege and a pleasure to connect with you today, Erin, and I look forward to our next encounter. I'm sure this won't be our only conversation. I love what you do. I love what you bring to the planet, and thank you so much for helping to raise the frequency. Thank you. Bye for now, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Healing Through Love. You can get further resources, see the show notes, or simply reach out to us via our website at htlaustralia.org. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to your company next time on the Healing Through Love podcast.